Since we're in the mix of recording, we just got a breaking news article about the cancellation of Red Velvet's visual and leader, Irene. And if you're a Red Velvet stan, I'm so sorry. You either need to leave the room or pray for a second, because what we say may hurt your feelings. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's read the timeline of the breakdown of the scandal. October 20th, famous photoshoot editor made a long Instagram post describing an incident where an unknown famous female celebrity verbally insulted her for 20 long minutes, bringing her to tears, and the speculation amongst netizens began when they tried to figure out the identity of this said celebrity. October 22nd, so 2 days later, the alleged idol was to be Irene or Selgi, but some dismissed, seeing that the editor previously praised their work and Irene's beauty. Then, a former Red Velvet fashion collaborator liked the editor's post about the celebrity's tantrum. Then, a famous fashion photographer and other fashion insiders left message supporting her post. Then, Irene herself apologized on Instagram to the stylist about the tantrum, and SM themselves released a statement apologizing to the stylist. Then the stylist deleted her original post following the apologies. Then more industry insiders began speaking up about the negative experiences with Irene, including a backup dancer and video director, amongst others. Then Irene and SM representatives met and apologized to the editor in person about the verbal attack. Then, Red Velvet scheduled attendance to the K-Culture Festival 2020 fan meet was canceled. And to make matters worse, this scandal has been covered by Western news outlets including Billboard, E! News, and Jezebel.
To be honest, I'm even scared to give my opinion because I was already attacked by this fandom.
She's triggered!
But, we're going to talk about it because I'm not afraid.
Does the prosecution want to begin?
So when this went down, I was actually surprised by the mixed reactions, how people were responding to it on Twitter. For example, a lot of the Red Velvet fans were actually in support of Irene and trying to debunk the original story, blaming it all on the stylist. I remember some people spreading rumors saying that the stylist was a dude, and if it's a man, then Irene should, be mean to him and basically degrade him and treat him like trash. And then I also remember all other fans coming to her defense and saying, this stylist is the reason why she got electrocuted. But then this stylist in particular was someone who was working on a photo shoot. It was not someone who was working for a concert, a performance, or anything like that. She was a fashion editor, right?
Mm-hmm. Are you saying that their excuses have been declined?
Yes, because let's put this situation in a real world. I don't know if any of you guys have jobs or if you're in that age where you're working, but have you ever been treated badly by your boss? Have you ever had those days where your boss has just been an asshole? Even though he's your boss, is the way that he treats you excused? In my opinion, there is no excuse for you to lash out onto someone who's working for you. It doesn't matter what level they're in, whether it's the janitor, the waiter, the person who ties your shoelaces, or the person who's in charge of making sure you look beautiful before you go out for a performance. You need to be able to have respect. That's the bottom line. It's about respect. And I feel like she's at a point where there's things surrounding her that have led to her to lash out onto someone. We don't know what happened, and we honestly have no idea what are the things she said. But in terms of the situation, I don't like how everyone was excusing her behavior instead of saying, Irene was in a wrong for doing this. And if she wasn't in the wrong, she wouldn't have apologized. And I will say this, I do give kudos to her for issuing an apology immediately the next day, right? She could have waited and even ignored the story if she didn't feel any remorse. If she didn't feel sympathetic or didn't she feel like she was in the wrong, she wouldn't have apologized immediately. So kudos to Irene for doing that. I feel like her fans need to follow in her footsteps and be like, yeah, my idol messed up and we have to accept this, that not everyone is perfect, because as Lee was saying previously, we do not know these idols. So we shouldn't put them on a pedestal and act like they're infallible. Everyone has flaws. No one is perfect, and neither are your favorite idols.
Well, I have like a few like things. I personally think I love that Irene issued an apology, and I think for me personally, I don't think that she should be canceled. Because at least she acknowledged her wrongdoing. There's idols, no shade, male idols who constantly make questionable choices and they don't get shunned or canceled. Like, no tea, no shade. Day 6, Jay, he said a lot of homophobic things in the past, and I don't see us rising to cancel him. G-Dragon years ago got into a scandal for smoking pot. No one canceled him for it. One male idol even caused vehicular manslaughter. And he just disappeared for a year and then reemerged from the shadows, and people forgot everything that happened. Or that whole Itaewon scandal happened with Jungkook. You know, at that time, Korea was saying Itaewon was the reason for Corona, yada, yada, yada. Whoever goes to Itaewon is irresponsible. And y'all were quick to be like, oh, they were wearing masks. Or, you know, they were just hanging out. Like, that doesn't mean that they are spreading Corona. So I just feel like that's one issue where I just feel like if you're going to cancel Irene, then we're going to go back and have to cancel a ton of male idols. My second point is also a question of, is Irene really that difficult to deal with? Or is it because of the culture she's from? She is Korean. She is a woman. Korea is one of those cultures that they have certain expectation for what women should act like. And is it the fact that Irene is really difficult to deal with? Or is she that type of person where she comes on set, she's very much like, are things together? No, why aren't they together? Like Nicki Minaj discussed it a few years ago in her documentary. Like, if a man does something, he's a boss. If a woman does the same thing 20 minutes later, she's a bitch. I feel like she's chaperoned through the wazoo. Like, she has managers that follow her. So for me, has no manager or no one on her team has been like, yo, Irene, you're kind of being a little difficult right now. Bring it down. You know, like things like that.
I think the most shocking thing about this story is that she actually made this woman cry. Like, someone who's been in the industry for 15 years, let's not forget that she's worked with a lot of other famous people, and she's probably had to deal with people who've had negative and nasty attitudes. But this incident was so scarring that she had to tell her story. And I think that's something that people are underplaying when they talk about this or they're defending her. She made a grown-ass woman cry. It's really unfortunate to see the way that people are excusing her behavior and like making jokes about it, and even like saying that this woman is like sensitive because she cried. It's like, well, you try being screamed at for 20 minutes and being called whatever. I don't know what Irene did, but let's think about it. Like, it must have been a huge freak out.
Idols don't have the privilege of having a therapist on staff. Idols don't have the privilege of openly being able to seek mental help without the public thinking that they're crazy. And I think maybe Irene was triggered and snapped and had a breakdown. Like, understand something. Idols, literally, when idols are promoting and working, they're on 2 hours of sleep a day. They're up at the crack of dawn. They're shooting, they're doing all this stuff. Maybe for her, she was burnt out and she snapped. Like, I'm not saying that, like, what she did isn't horrible, but I think hearing this, I'm more like, wow, like, maybe there's something deeper involving her mental health that is at play here. For her to snap and do that, she's probably was going through a lot at the time. Because when idols are popular, they're working non-stop. It's not like idols are like American celebrities where they can take a break for 3 years from their career and come back and pick up and be fine. You know, like they're not like an Adele where Adele can vanish and come back and release. That's the magic of Adele. But I think K-pop is a very different market where because their idols coming out every year in droves, when you're a popular idol, you have to work extremely long hours, and she doesn't have the luxury of being able to handle this situation in private. And then the fact that her misstep is now public, and she's getting not just judged by the insiders, she's now getting judged by the public. So now she has to handle a private situation in public.
So a lot of netizens are actually rallying behind kicking Irene out of the group. How do you feel about that? Do you think it's really necessary to kick her out of Red Velvet?
No, because I think what has she done to warrant to be kicked out? Again, I can go through idols that have done questionable things, but they're still in their groups. So I just think that they should just let her live and let her work on herself and come back.
What sense does it make kicking someone out? Like, that's only pushing the narrative that you only want idols to act a certain way and to behave a certain way. Like, you're not even open to the idea of an idol making a mistake and owning up to it. And I feel like just by kicking her out, that's just making things worse. Like, imagine how Irene's gonna feel.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the K-Pop Bible. And I hope to see you for our next episode coming up. Cece, where can they find us?
So you can listen to our podcast on Spotify, and don't forget to follow our page so you don't miss when we upload the next episode. You can also listen to us on anchor.fm. Usually we upload the episode a week later on our YouTube channel. So if you aren't subscribed to us there, what are you waiting for?